All right, welcome to our program. I hope you're looking forward to a good weekend. We have with us on the show, we may or may not have Monique Von Vorn. We're still not sure about that. But we do know that we have Long Island Entrepreneur of the Year, the chopped chicken liver queen herself, Sylvia Weinberg, will be here with her secret recipe. We have the champion skaters, Ty Babylonia and Randy Gardner, both sitting together on a program. Victor Hill de la Madrid with a feature report on Federico Ruiz, who is a sculptor. I'm sure you didn't know this, that actually this week marks the 100th anniversary of the brown paper bag. And we're going to celebrate that today with some special things that you can do with the brown paper bag. Plus, we also have this man. That's Mr. Eddie Fisher, our special guest today on Midday. So, stay with us.
Midday with Bill Boggs is the New York area Emmy Award winner for Outstanding Discussion Interview Series.
Welcome to our program. Eddie, actually, in my life, the very first, I guess you'd say the very first show I ever saw was in Philadelphia back in the 40s. Eddie Fisher was, at this point, a senior or a junior or a sophomore in high school, South Philadelphia High School. You performed on a show called The Magic Lady or something?
The Magic Lady Supper Club.
Supper Club. And my mother took me down on the L train in Philadelphia, and I can still close my eyes. I was at the back of the room and see you and some other people up there, and you sang songs, and Skipper Dawes was the MC.
You don't look that old.
Oh, well, I was a very little kid. This is probably before I even went into kindergarten. And so I always feel a special kinship with people from my hometown of Philadelphia.
I can't believe it, all the Philadelphians that I meet.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
I don't think I've met anyone as good-looking as you from Philadelphia.
Well, Eddie,
I mean, I'd like to have your face and
well,
my
I'll take
voice.
your voice. No, but I'll take your voice for
All
you. See, we could do a face and a voice transplant.
Can it be done?
No, fortunately.
No.
You're here because we're going to talk about a few things. Your book, Eddie, My Life, My Loves, is in paperback. You're going to be performing down at the totally revitalized Atlantic City at the Sands, I believe, on the 7th of February. And you're opening...
No, the 11th.
11th. The 11th of February. And you're opening at the Indigo Supper Club here in New York, which is a new club I've not been to.
Brand new club, and it's a beautiful club, and I really am... I'm looking forward to working in New York.
It's been a while.
Yeah, 1967 at the Palace was the last time.
The Palace Theater. That was a big show.
Yes.
Big show. You know, there's a lot I want to run through here. I want to talk about your music, the way you approach putting your act together, but I want to start out with what we were talking about before we came on the air. That is the state of your health. In your book, you talk a great deal about your dependency on
Methamphetamine.
Methamphetamine.
But that was a long time ago.
I know it was. I know it was.
A very long time ago.
The question is this. You go back into when did you end that? When did you totally pull away from that?
That's 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yes.
Right? How would you assess its effect on your personality while you were doing the drug? I mean, when you're in it, you don't realize why you're doing it or what it's doing to you. But now that you got 10 years of hindsight, how did it really screw up your behavior?
I don't know that it got me right away because I was under doctor's supervision
Doctors
for a
were giving
long,
these
long
injections,
time.
Yeah.
Most of the time in the beginning. And I didn't notice any negative changes. I only recognized positive in my voice and in my...
Energy. You had to feel great energy.
I had all of this false energy. Maybe it's not, it was energy.
Yeah.
I used to call it false all the time. But it gets a hold, once it gets a hold of you, after you take it for a long time, that's when you are in trouble.
Yeah.
Then it affects everything.
How did you become affected by it? When you said the low, in the beginning it was something that was good, it helped you.
Right.
At the end it was something that was hurting you. How would you describe how it was hurting you?
More than before the end.
Yeah.
But how was it hurting me? It was hurting me that I became so dependent on it. I wouldn't go on stage without getting a shot from a doctor, from my doctor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go on. I once held up an audience for 2 hours because the doctor hadn't come in from New York
to
Philadelphia,
take care of you.
to Rotten Casino.
To take care of you.
Yes.
When you, was there one specific moment, Eddie, when you knew that you had to, that this had developed into a giant problem, that you had to beat this problem?
Yeah.
What was that moment?
A fellow named Jack Kelly. I think he was from Philadelphia too.
Jack Kelly was the late Princess Grace's
No,
brother.
this
Oh,
is
different
no,
Jack
this
Kelly.
is a Jack Kelly who was a friend of mine, and a friend of Elvis's, and a friend of Andy Williams, who was with the Narcotics Division, Deputy Commissioner for California, Nevada, and Hawaii. And he came to my house in Bel Air one time. This was really the end of the beginning. And he came to my house, and he looked at me, he says, "Come here." He took me in front of a mirror. He says, "I give you 6 months.
Jeez.
I said, "No, I give you 3. I think a couple of days later, I was on my way to Switzerland to go to a clinic.
Total clinic
Yeah.
cure.
Yeah. But the road coming back is rough.
Oh, I would think that it would
Because I always thought I could not sing. I couldn't sing without this wonderful thing
But that's
called
funny, because
methamphetamine.
when I saw you in the makeup room, the second or third, after I introduced myself, being from Philadelphia, the second or third thing I said is, "How's your voice?" And you didn't really know what I meant by that, but I guess what I meant was, to the extent that the voice is part of one's health and could be a reflection of how you live your life and take care of yourself.
It is.
And here we're
It
dealing
is.
with Eddie Fisher, who at one point had this extraordinary choir boy clarity to your voice. We're going to hear
Well,
a
I
couple.
still have a...
Yeah. How has it been affected by all this? That's my question. Have you abused it, or is it...
I am a very, very lucky man in that I laid off singing. You must sing all. You
It's a
must.
muscle, yeah.
You must use that muscle.
Yeah.
If you don't, but the miracle was that maybe it got a rest, and it's better now. Forgive me for
No.
it's better now than it ever has been.
You told me that when you first broke in, everyone said you were this natural. When you were
That's right.
17, 18 years
Yes,
old.
don't touch
that
touch
voice.
it. Don't touch it. You know, you'll ruin it. You know.
Don't train.
Don't train it. It's natural and comes out easy. And this is terrible. This is the most wrong thing in the whole world.
For a professional singer.
For anybody. You must train for anything.
Well,
Always.
When did you have to go train your voice? I mean, if you had this great instrument.
Now.
You're doing it now.
I've been doing it for the last year and a half.
And how are you doing it? You going to...
I go to a coach. My musical director, Colin Romoff, is my coach.
So you work a regular, just like an athlete, you work a
That's
practice
right.
schedule,
That's right.
and you do it.
Yes.
All right, so now when you go into the Sands Atlantic City,
Yeah.
and you step out on the stage, you have performed on stages all around the world. I want to ask you this, as objectively as possible, of all the clubs, the bistros, the boîtes, everything, has in your life been your favorite club you've ever played? Your favorite place?
That's really tough.
The owners are not watching. The place that just made you feel the best.
I'll tell you, I think it's easy. If you have a great audience, see, that's my true love. That's really my true love. I mean, I was in love with a few women in my life, but...
Is that true?
That's
You're really
true.
in love with those women, huh? You were madly in love with those women, weren't you?
No, there may have been 2 or 3.
Yeah. No, I believe that. I believe that.
But
the club.
my true love is an audience. That's my true love. But I neglected my true love and took a fork in the road and got into a lot of trouble that no other singer ever got into, or anybody else got into this much
trouble. I mean,
well,
not just
anyway.
the publicized marital rifts, but the actual physical problems.
No, it was the getting involved with women, love.
Yeah.
I fell in love with love everlasting.
But love fell out with you.
me.
Yeah, I understand that. So but just to get back, you cannot name one club.
Yes, I can.
What is it?
The Riviera at Fort Lee, New Jersey was the most beautiful club.
When I interviewed Frank Sinatra, he talked about that club. There was an open sky.
That's right.
Yeah, he remembered that. He's also, he didn't say it was his
I
favorite.
reminded him. I talked to Frank at Carnegie Hall closing night when he played there last time, and I asked him a silly question. I said, Frank, you've had a lot of highlights in your life. What was one? And he looked at me like I was nuts, you know, because he's had, you know, had it all.
How can you pick one like that? Yeah.
And I said, he looked at me, look. I said, the Riviera, Fort Lee, New Jersey. He turned around, and you know, that Sinatra look, and he said, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, he mentioned that when I interviewed him. Well, let's take a break. Well, let me ask you one question before the break. Let's talk about...
I like you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the other E.T., Elizabeth Taylor. That's the other E.T.
Oh.
If she hadn't met, if she hadn't met Richard Burton, do you think you'd still be married?
Oh, no way. No way.
Okay.
No way.
All right.
But
fair answer.
But we did have a great love. I mean, it's been forgotten. We would do it. Oh yeah, we had as great a love. She's forgotten. You know?
So how do you know she's forgotten?
Oh, I know Elizabeth.
Do you think she doesn't? But you have not forgotten.
No, I will never forget.
Do you think you could fall back in love with her again?
In the next life?
Not in this one.
Not in this one.
It couldn't happen.
No.
Could not happen twice.
No way.
All right, let's take a break and we will continue
Especially when you're in love.
You're already in love with someone else. We'll be right back.
Let me make you smile. Let me do a few tricks, some old and then some new tricks. I'm very versatile. And if you're real good, I'll make you feel good. I want your spirits to climb. Let me and we'll have a real good time, yes sir. We'll have a real good time. Let me entertain you. Ah, let me
You did it twice.
smile.
Well, let me tell you sound wonderful. It's great to hear the voice without any mic or any amplification. Just the real voice like that. Your voice sounds great.
Well, you know, that's part of when I train, when I work.
Sounds strong.
I work with no amplification, and that gives you learn more about yourself. You hear more.
Yeah. We're going to talk about your life and your loves, right, which is actually the title of your autobiography. How would you like to change? Maybe you don't want to change it, I don't know. But how would you, well, let me put this another way. What is the difference between what your image is today, which is like Eddie Fisher, the comeback kid who's written this autobiography and who's fallen in love all these times, he's had his relationships thrashed out in the press. What would you like to change about that image now? Not go back and change it, but for the next 20 years of your life.
I'm not going to live 20 more years with the life I've led. I'm going to live 20 more years. Thank you. Please.
I hope you live 20 more years.
I don't think so.
No?
But whatever I live,
all right.
I am very happy. To change something?
Yeah. What would you like to change about your image from this point forward to the rest of your life?
I would like to have not made that mistake of putting love for women before my love for singing. That must come first. I can never do that again.
But as you look back on, I mean, you know the great song "Regrets." I've had a few. That's.
I have no regrets.
You have no regrets at all.
No real regrets. No.
How do you feel about yourself as a parent? I mean, through all of the
Oh, I am the worst. I was the worst, but I am a new parent now. I mean, I have 4 grown children. You know, I have Carrie, and I don't want to tell you how old she is because she doesn't like me to tell everybody.
You don't have to.
She's 23.
She's mighty good.
And my son is going to be 25 in 3 weeks. My son Todd, my daughter Jolie is 15, and my daughter Tricia, who's going to be in Atlantic City and at the Indigo with. Yeah. She's not going to sing. They all have my voice.
They do?
They all have my voice.
Well, we don't...
Better.
Really?
Better.
Well, why not? I mean, this could be like the trap. You could reemerge as the Osmonds.
No, the mothers won't.
You could be like the mothers won't let them on stage with you.
No, I'll tell you what.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
Right.
No. I have my two babies,
Yeah.
14 and 15. Carrie, I don't know why she's not singing.
She can sing. She's a really good singer.
Yeah, she's a fantastic. She's done some duets for fun with Paul Simon that are just glorious. She's a marvelous musician also. But my two little babies, Jolie and Tricia, 14 and 15, have a bigger voice than I have. And they train, and they are.
So we're going to be hearing from them.
Oh, you're going to hear
Hearing from them.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the early part of your career. You attribute really Eddie Cantor, among other people, but particularly Eddie Cantor, as discovering you.
I think in the book I don't really give him that. He did open all the doors.
Helped launch you. Yeah? Helped. Yeah?
Nationally.
What did Eddie Cantor like about Eddie
Dawes
Fisher?
is the man.
Skipper Dawes was the fellow in Philadelphia who
right.
gave you a break when you were in high school.
Right, there were a lot of people, but there were a lot of people that always helped me. There was a man named Milton Blackstone, who was my mentor, who was more than my father, if my father will forgive me for saying that. And we are together now. We've been together again for 3 years, and we are closer now than we've ever been. And what was your question?
The question was about Eddie Cantor.
Yes.
What I was wondering about Eddie Cantor was, there's a whole generation of people, maybe 2 generations, that don't even remember Eddie Cantor. I mean, what kind of guy he was and so forth. But what was there about the chemistry between you and Eddie Cantor, who is truly a throwback to the era of vaudeville and Al Jolson, which somehow came through in the way you sing? There is a bravo in the way you sing, that release that you have, that does remind people of Al Jolson, and you've done tributes to Al Jolson in your material.
But I sing his songs, but I don't imitate Al
No,
Jolson.
you don't. You do not imitate him, but you do his material, and there's a similar feeling somehow.
Well, that could be. I mean, I liked his projection, his intensity, his drama. Today they make fun of it, you know, when they hear Jolson, you know, but.
Well, that's part of the music business.
But there was the part
I'm looking for the chemistry between you and Eddie Cantor. What was there that clicked? Why did
it was Milton Blackstone. He forced it. Because Eddie Cantor was known as a discoverer. He discovered Dinah Shore and Deanna Durbin and Bobby Breen and the Mad Russian and many, many people that people don't know about anymore. But he was a discoverer of talent. And Milton Blackstone knew this. Everybody in America knew it, you know. And for Eddie Cantor to hear me, Milton Blackstone just wanted Eddie Cantor to hear me sing. And it was really tough because Eddie Cantor did not want to hear me sing.
Yeah, he just didn't want to go to where you...
No, he was at Gross Singers.
Oh, I see.
At the time.
Yeah.
But Milton Blackstone had to do a lot of convincing. But once he heard me sing, he came out on the stage and said, "How would you like to go on tour with me all over the country? And then I have 5 daughters I want you to meet." He had me marrying one of his daughters already.
So it was the voice. When Cantor heard the voice, that was it. That was it. I have to take a break for a commercial. We'll be back. We're going to continue with
really
Eddie
like
Fisher. Well, I appreciate that very much. But we're about Philadelphia guys, and we'll be back after this.
Won't be just any night. Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us stars will stop where they are. Burn bright and make this endless day, endless night, tonight.
So what do you remember about Eddie Cantor when he came up to you? This is the big break in your life, right? He comes up to you. What did he say? You don't have to do exact imitation. What would it look like? I'll be you. You be Eddie Cantor.
You be me?
I'm 19-year-old.
You got to shake a lot.
Well, hi,
You'll be
Mr.
very nervous. Yes.
Well, it's nice to see you, Mr. Cantor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie ladies and gentlemen, in the past, I've discovered such youngsters as Deanna Durbin, Dinah Shore, Bobby Breen. This past Labor Day weekend, at a summer resort in the Catskill Mountains called Grossings, I found a new boy. In my opinion, I think he's destined to become the most important singer of popular songs in America.
It's a pretty nice introduction. Did you remain, when you started to fall on the hard times with the bad publicity and the stuff with the relationships, was Eddie Cantor still around? Did he ever call you up and say, "What are you doing, Fisher?
Never.
What's going on in your life?"
He never did.
No, he didn't.
Never, not to the, he always, we did develop a very close, in the end, because I was very young. And
When
then,
you met him, you were young.
Yes, and then I'm still very, I'm old in years, but I'm a boy, and I'll always be part boy.
Yeah. I think that came out when you were involved in Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, didn't you do Saturday Night Live?
No,
Weren't
I did a picture just now for Saturday Night
I
Live
thought
people.
when you were hanging around the Saturday Night Live people, you talk about that in your
Oh,
book.
in the book.
The way that it made you feel, it took you back in years. You know, the thing I think that is most curious to understand about what you've been through is how you have been able to, maybe you haven't been able to, deal with the media coverage of your life. The fact that your relationships, whether the facts that they put in the press were correct or incorrect, pretty much were dissolved and came about and dissolved in front of the world.
That's right.
Where do you run to when you're on the front page of every newspaper and that Liz is running off with Richard and, you know, and everyone thinks, poor Eddie, what's happening to him? And the world is reading about, where do you go?
I only ran once to the bathroom. That was the only time I remember running away. I was at a dinner at the Waldorf Astoria, and the media, the press of the world were there. You know, and they were standing right behind me, and Ralph Bunch and Phil Silvers was on the dais, and I had to make a little speech, and I was not in any shape then. I had just come back from Rome, and
everything that happened.
Funny thing happened in Rome.
And Cleopatra.
Yeah, very funny. But what was your question?
The question was how you have handled thinking everyone is reading about me this morning. I'm on the front page of every paper. Intimate details of my life are being discussed while people are drinking coffee. Everybody thinks, wow, Eddie Fisher, another one's gone down the tubes. How have you handled the media's coverage of the destruction of all these marriages?
Well, I didn't try to handle it. You can't handle it. What I think that I had a background of being a pioneer in television, live television, and getting things like you get them. You know, you get them while you're on the air. You know, and but this was right immediate, and I think that had something to do with it. And also, you got to perform. The show must go on.
Did you enjoy this attention?
Oh no.
You didn't enjoy it.
Oh no.
You didn't enjoy it.
No, and I mean, you know, especially some of the things that were said were, you know, just so heartbreaking, you know, and so they were killing.
Have you ever seen? I think people wonder if you see the. Have you ever seen Richard Burton, since?
Oh yeah.
What happens when you run into him?
No, I ran into him a couple of times, but the one time it was fun. He was really. I was with Elizabeth and Richard at the Regency Hotel, and we had to do a discussion and talking. Everything was
recently?
fine. No, this is when he was doing Hamlet.
Oh. Okay.
And he said, Liz, do you think it would be a good idea if Eddie and I went over to the and she said something in her, the way she talks. She told him what to do, you know, bad
So
taste.
there were civil relationships among the three of you. I mean, it exists. If you're in a room together,
just for that moment.
People shouldn't be embarrassed. I mean, if you're in a room together, what can we expect if, hypothetically, you show up at a party with your girlfriend now, and Liz is over in one corner and Burton's over another corner, and all of a sudden...
Burton would ignore me.
He would ignore you?
Yes, and Elizabeth, I just said Liz for the first time in my life.
Elizabeth?
This is history. No. I saw her at Sardi's before she took off all the weight, and before she had, and I really, I couldn't believe that I was married to this woman.
Because of physical change.
Yes,
Yeah.
but then when I saw her on the, was it the Tony Awards?
Tony Award show, yeah.
I was watching with some people, and I applauded her. Yeah. I applauded.
Let me ask you one very important question about your early television career. Do you think there could ever be another show on television with the same title as one of your shows in the early 50s? The title of the show was... You ready for the title?
It's Coke Time.
That's correct. Eddie Fisher was a host of a program in the early 50s called It's Coke Time.
And you know how hard it was.
Coca-Cola.
How hard it was for the Coca-Cola company to get that title. For years they tried to get it, and
Yeah.
I don't know why they couldn't, but they finally got it, and now they're stuck with it.
They've got it. Eddie, this is your autobiography, which is here in paperback. Eddie, My Life, My Loves. It did very well as a hardback thing. One thing I want to ask.
Well, it's #1 in Los Angeles
on
in paperback.
There's a thing that says a gentleman should never kiss and tell.
Oh my! Now
You have done that in this book, and I'd just like you to take a minute to explain to people who might criticize you for doing that why it was important to you to kiss and tell.
well, I don't know that it was important for me to kiss and tell, but I was telling the story of my life as I saw it truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
I am very embarrassed about some of the things, some of the women that I talked about, and because a man should not kiss and tell. But this is in hindsight. This is after it's all over. While I was doing it, and I was also being how do you say, fashioned by the publisher. This is what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
This was not the original cover of the book. They didn't have Elizabeth and Debbie on the cover,
Yeah.
you know. It was just me, my life. Now, this is what the Harper & Row Publishing Company really wanted.
Uh-huh.
You see?
Well.
But there are 5,500 pages in the vault that if you could read those pages, then we really have a...
Will we ever read those pages?
No.
All right, let's review. Eddie Fisher's going to be down at Atlantic City February 11th for the weekend at the Sands. He comes back to New York, opens a 2-week stint at the Indigo Supper Club.
Wonderful new
on the 15th.
club.
It should be fun, and it'll be interesting to see you perform. I think there'll be some good new material in there, as well as some of the great old stuff.
Right, and you're going to be there.
I'm coming opening night. It's nice to see you.
Hey.
Eddie Fisher. We'll be back with the chopped liver queen, the Long Island Entrepreneur of the Year, right after this.
Before you came, my time was running low. I was lost. The losing dice were tossed. My bridges all were crossed. Nowhere to go.
Let me tell you something. If you gave this food to Ty and Randy, they would never get off the ice. This is heavy stuff. With us right now is Sylvia Weinberger. Sylvia Weinberger is the Mrs. Weinberg of the frozen chopped liver fame, and she is being given the award as the homemaker of the year at the 7th annual Long Island Home Show, Nassau Coliseum, February 10th to 13th. I'm told you actually get the award each day. Did you know that? You have to show up every day to get the award.
3 days, yeah, for 3 days.
What's your specialty? I mean, if you had to stand in line and say, this is one thing I do better than anyone else in the world, what would it be?
Well, it would be you mean to make something?
One dish.
One
dish.
Yes,
If they were having a contest.
The chopped liver. I would make the chopped liver.
You'll stake your claim on chopped liver. And here it is right here, folks.
Here it is.
I mean, that's chopped liver. You've seen it before, and you'll probably see it again. But that's chopped liver. What makes your chopped liver, now that's the side of it there. What makes your chopped liver so special?
It's special because it's fresh stuff in it. Goes in fresh liver, fresh boiled liver, stewed onions, seasoning, and it's being packed and freezed. And the taste is locked in it.
But the reason why I want to say this, I mean, if you gave me the recipe,
Yes.
right? Now, why couldn't I make it as good as you make it?
Yes, you could make it as good as I make it if I tell you how to make it. And you have to follow the recipe.
Do you give out the recipe to strangers like me?
Yes, there is not so much recipe to it, because if you make anything, chopped liver or something else, fresh stuff.
Fresh stuff.
Everything fresh.
Stuff is important.
Yes.
Fresh stuff.
Fresh liver, stewed onions, the same day made, grind it, put them in the freezer, all the seasoning. When you defrost, you eat it, it's fresh, like you could make it the same minute.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of these fresh stuff we've got here. I'll start at this end of the table. What is this?
Let's see.
I mean, real men don't eat this. Is this quiche? Wait, you're moving the table.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, sir.
Yeah, this is stuffed derma, yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, stuffed derma.
Stuffed derma?
Derma, yes.
Whose derma are you using in this?
Yeah. This derma.
What kind of derma?
Yeah, let's see it. I want to see it.
You want to check the derma on this?
Check.
It's a dermatological examination is now going on.
No, this is potato pudding. Oh boy, I made a mistake.
It certainly isn't chopped liver.
No,
anyway, what's this, ravioli?
This is ravioli, yeah. They call it in Yiddish kreplach. Yeah, kreplach.
Kreplach?
Yes. And in Italian it's ravioli, made out of meat, yeah.
Don't take offense. I'm on a diet,
Yeah,
and I can't eat this.
Yeah.
What are these? Cocktail hot dogs?
This is cocktail hot dogs. They call it hot dogs and blankets.
Hot dogs and blankets.
Yeah. This you could taste. It's very good.
I could, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Now,
this is potato, and this is noodle pudding.
But there is no stuffed derma.
Yeah, there's no stuffed derma. No.
I'm relentlessly looking for it,
it's
but
supposed to be.
It's not here.
Yeah, not here.
All right. This is what Ty and Randy shouldn't take before any competition, because this plate weighs 9 pounds.
9 pounds. That's right.
Well, I just actually hurt my muscle here trying to.
I'm going to help you.
You look at it. One individual, each one weighs about 4 ounces.
Potato knishes.
Potato
knishes.
Now listen to the sound it makes when it falls. Listen, listen. Did you hear that?
It's heavy. Yeah, it's heavy.
It is heavy. What makes it? What gives it that?
Yeah, well, the potatoes.
The potatoes
good made potatoes, and the dough is made.
Dough.
Very good dough and potatoes, and no caterer can go without it. They all ask for potato knishes.
They have to have now even heavier. Believe it or not, in case you've got to bulk up for the potato famine coming up. What would these be? This
is kasha knishes. The same like the potato knishes. This is kasha.
Yeah.
You know what kasha is? It's wheat. It's a wheat flour.
Wheat.
Yeah.
Wheat. Thank you. I have translators around me all the set here.
Wheat.
Finally, just two other things.
This is barley mushrooms.
The one that's pulsating over here.
This is barley mushrooms, and this is kashavanishkas, they call that.
It all looks good.
Everybody likes it, and it goes a lot.
What? Now tell me, this show at the Nassau Coliseum, the actual is called the 7th Annual Long Island Home Show. The Nassau Coliseum is going to be February 10th to 13th. What goes on there? I mean, you'll be there, you'll be getting the award. What else? What else happens?
There's going on there home energy improvements. All kind of hardware for home energy. Anybody wants it, it's going to be there.
Right.
Yes.
Well, they have vacuum cleaners?
Everything, yes. Homeowners in private homes and
will people be able to eat liver? I mean, will people be wandering through the Coliseum just,
yes, and then
totally blissing out on this chopped liver?
Yes, and then they're going to come and taste that and eat this, yes.
Well, this is Sylvia Weinberger. Sylvia Weinberger, Homemaker of the Year at Nassau Coliseum, and certainly her food is very good. As a matter of fact, I think I'll break my diet. What should I have? One thing.
Appetizing. It's everything appetizing.
Just suggest one thing for me to have, to give myself energy for Ty and Randy.
Taste the frankfurters first.
It's the one thing I didn't want.
Yes. I know everybody likes that.
Good.
Yeah. The potato pudding next.
Well, one at a time, you know? We'll be back right after this. It is good.